Back to the Culture Call on Praise 93.3 with L. Spencer Smith. Our desire is to reach and empower the community by discussing a cross-section of relevant topics from various perspectives that are essential to its growth and interpersonal connections. Be sure to save our call-in number, 205-752-4800. Be sure to install the free Praise 93.3 app so you can send L. Spencer Smith a message or topic idea. Search for WTSK in your app store.
This is a world premiere.
Great morning, precious people. You know what time it is. That's right. It's time for the Culture Call right here on Praise 93.3 with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. As always, this is the place where Tuscaloosa meets the world. Yes, absolutely. And for the next 2 hours from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., we're going to be right here. That's right, right here, talking a little bit about everything from society to sports, education to economics, from religion to relationships. And as always, y'all, we try to create a safe space to have empowering, provocative, and yes, sometimes controversial conversations. And you know what? We haven't left you out. You can sit right here and chat it up or call in as we learn together right here on the Culture Call. Want to send a shout out to Brother Jay, who again leaves it blazing every morning for me. Thank you for passing this hot baton. I'm going to try to handle it the best way I know how. That's what I'm going to do. And secondly, welcome to all of you who may be listening to us for the very first time on the Culture Call. We are so very glad and elated to have you with us on this morning. Yes, this is the place where you're going to find us some information, and we want you to be a welcome part of our community right here on the Culture Call. And of course, last but certainly not least, all of our regular listeners. That's right, all of our consistent listeners who listen to the show every day. Thank you so much. Thank you for your encouragement. Thank you that when you see me, you hug me and tell me I'm doing a good job. You shake my hand. Yeah, all of those good things. I really, really, really appreciate it. And from the bottom of my heart, stay right here. Don't go anywhere. You make Culture Call exactly what it is. Listen, as I say every morning, I want to encourage you to open up your phone. That's right. I know you've got it close to you. Open up your phone, and I need you to go to your app store on your Apple or your Android device and search out Praise 93.3. Yeah, you're going to find there a free 99 app. What does that mean? It doesn't cost you a thing to download it on your phone. That's right. Go ahead and do that now. Download it on your phone, and guess what? That will allow you to hear this broadcast and Praise 93.3 all around the world. That's right. Wherever you can get a signal, that app will make sure that you never miss out on what's happening here on Praise 93 and definitely on the Culture Call. Absolutely. So whether you are in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, shout out to you guys. Baltimore, Maryland, shout out to my family there. Whether you're in Richmond, Virginia, yeah, I'm coming down the East Coast. Whether you're in Charleston, South Carolina, doesn't matter. And definitely, if you are here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and all of the surrounding areas, you can hear the Culture Call, and we are so great to have you. We're so glad and great to have you. Listen, go ahead and send me your public service announcements and your events. If you have those, yeah, you can send them to culturecall.praise@gmail.com. That's culturecall.praise@gmail.com. Or you can go on our social media page on Facebook at The Culture Call. That's right, The Culture Call, and like us. And then you can, number one, email us, or you can message us your events. You can message us your flyer, your poster, whatever that is, whether it's your church, your organization, your sorority, your fraternity, your music group. Yeah, maybe you're having a revival, or maybe you're an entrepreneur and you're having a business session that you want us to be a part of. No problem. If you send it to me, I will say it free 99 on the air so that everyone will know what's going on in your neck of the woods and show our faces, because, I believe in Faces in the Place encourage you so much to continue what you are doing. You know why? Because we definitely do it better when we do it together. Absolutely. And of course, you can always take down this number, 205-752-4800, and give us a call, 205-752-4800, and you can give us a call. And that app has a feature, a chat feature, that while we're on the air, you can send me questions. You can send me how you're enjoying this subject, and I'm going to read them on the air. That's right. Do that and be a blessing to someone. You never know that the unasked question is the only what they call dumb question. That's right, the question that you don't ask. But every question, every concern, we want to make sure that if we know how, we will address it right here on the Culture Call. I definitely want to hear from you. So do me a favor this morning, sit back and relax, grab you some coffee, Maxwell House or Starbucks. You know how we do it here in the Culture Call. Yeah, get you some tea, some herbal tea, whether it's chamomile because you're trying to calm down, or whether it's some green tea because you're trying to perk up, right? Or get you some alkaline water, detox your body, get down to that cellular level, and let's get into the culture. Listen, I want to say thank you to all of you who have been telling me about the conversation we had on yesterday about the significance of HBCUs, the relevance in their resources. I really appreciate that. Those of you who have graduated from HBCUs, those of you who have children, those of you who just generally support HBCUs, you got kids there, you pay tuition there, you're watching them walk across the stage one day if they've not done so already. Thank you so much for letting me know that you appreciate the spotlight that we are bringing to our one of our treasures in the Black community, which is our historically Black colleges and universities. I think that is so very important. And as I said on yesterday, we were going to continue today, and I believe I got a special guest coming on from Stillman College today. We're going to have a little chat about what's really going on there in the state of HBCUs and what we can do together as a community to improve it. But yeah, Alabama is the leader. That's right, is the number one and the most HBCUs in the country. Can you believe it? That's right, Alabama with 14. Wow, 14 HBCUs in the state of Alabama, and so that really makes us in this state significant to the overall forward motion, the overall comprehension, and the overall, promotion of our HBCUs. I think it's very important. I think Georgia is next, maybe. I think so. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think it is Georgia that's next. But nonetheless, HBCUs are historically Black colleges and universities that are primarily in the South. They're not just in the South. You do have Cheney, you have Wilberforce, you do have Langston, and that's mostly in up north or the Midwest. You have those schools as well. And so definitely, we are grateful to every HBCU all around the country that are yet producing high quality, intelligent, academically aware, and socially prowessed. That's what I want to say. People who come and do great work in our world that looks like you and I. Absolutely. That HBCUs literally produce some of the most profound genius thinkers in the entire country. And although you may not hear about that, you might hear about where they got their master's degree or their doctorate, and they might say what school, especially their HBCU, as a byline or something else, or sideline or footnote or endnote. But the reality is that a lot of our African-American leaders have graduated from HBCUs. Our doctors, lawyers, engineers have graduated from the Black colleges and universities. And I think that we need to shine a light on that, specifically in this country, because of all of the yet racial tensions that exist publicly in policy and even in persona that's going on in our country. I think it is very important that we begin to elevate awareness of the amazing things, the awesome things that HBCUs are doing all around the country. And not only bring it to the awareness, but also offer and connect our young people to the available things, the available scholarships, the available funding that is necessary because school costs. Yeah, unless they get a scholarship. Yeah. But we need our best and our brightest today to be a part of that HBCU community so that we can continue to thrive and make a name in this postmodern generation. I think that is very important. I was reading on Instagram today, and this 16-year-old genius, black boy had an opportunity to go to Harvard, Princeton, Yale, all that, and he chose an HBCU to attend. And shout out number one to his parents, because I think that was also good parental direction, because when you're that young, I think he's about, 16. When he's that young, you need to be around people who understand your community, understand your background, understand how to protect you and how to nurture what is inside of you, not just as an intelligent individual, but as an African-American, a black intelligent individual, because that's different in America. That's different, right? Normally you go to college when you're, 17 or 18 or maybe a year later, 19, and you've got a little gravitas, a little maturity under your belt in that regard. But this young man is going on, and when he should really be in middle school, maybe his freshman year in high school, and now he's going to be stepping on a college campus. And the last thing that we need as a community is for him to step on a campus that does not understand who he is as an individual, as a person. What is the significance of him, number one, as a black boy stepping into the realm of higher education. But number two, we also need to be able to foster and get to train him in what the challenges will be as he grows up as a black man in this particular country. And I think that there is no better place to have that done than on the campus of an HBCU. And we talked a little bit about it yesterday, about how HBCUs have been so centrally significant in shaping and reshaping and reshaping, and then sometimes shaping and reshaping again, over and over again, the culture of the country. Social activism, social justice, is very prime on the HBCU campus, dealing with situations of diversity, equity, and inclusion is heavy on HBCU campuses, opening up the minds of generations to, the possibility of others and what they struggle with, not just black people, but how to stand in solidarity, in unity with those who struggle all over the world. When I was in college, the big thing that we dealt with was Nelson Mandela and South Africa and apartheid. And we had, on campus, and, we dealt with marches and all of those different kinds of things, boycotting certain companies that were still supporting his imprisonment and apartheid in that country. That was one of the things. And then I can remember another time we were on campus protesting the war in Iraq. Yeah. And in all of those different kinds of things. The Gulf War. That's right. The Gulf War. That's what it was. The Gulf War and all of that. Literally, I was on the marching band field and saw, they called us to attention, and literally the army, the military came, the ROTC people. That's it, ROTC. Y'all know what that is. Military in high school and college. They came and literally called the guys out and told them, hey, let's get ready. We got to go. We may have to go to war. And so, yeah, we protested that, because on the HBCU campus, you don't just ignore what's happening in the world, that those things that are significant. And a lot of the problem that we had at that time in terms of talking about reshaping and addressing certain social issues is that a lot of the black men and women were paying for school with ROTC, with the GI Bill, and that's not what they signed up for. A lot of them were in the Army Reserves, and they were able to go to school because at that time it was peacetime. And so, for them to have to be interrupted in their education, a lot of them, we're like, wait a minute, hold on. This war really doesn't even have anything to do with, us and how it's going to position black and brown people and minorities in the country. And yet they had signed an oath to be a part of that in the event that the United States went to war. And so we protested, we fussed, we did all that we could because we didn't want to see that happen. We just did not want to see that happen. And so it's very important to understand that not only does the HBCU, deal academically, and I say this, with expressed intention in my heart, not only do we create geniuses in terms of books and instruction and that kind of facilitation, we also have a big voice in what happens in the world today. And, I thought it would be apropos to really talk about that in this season. Why? Because we're in homecoming season. Everybody's going to homecoming. That means alumni. We are going back to the college campus, and we're seeing the changes. We're seeing the changes in demographics. We're seeing the changes in interest. Yeah. We're seeing the difference in not just the lawn or the campus of the university or college that we attended, but we're also seeing the differences in the kind of student that's there, that's attending now. And, we've got to begin to support with our mentorship and our money. We've got to begin to let the staff and the faculty, the presidents and all of them know that, yes, we graduated from these illustrious universities and colleges, and you shaped us in who we are today. And our thinking, the way that we move in the earth, you help shape that. And so it is only right that we, as an extension, as a branch, or branches, if I can say that, of the HBCU, give back to make sure that our students do not struggle, to offer mentorship and leadership, to begin to create jobs where we're in positions to do so, right? That we create internships for students who need exposure to the job market, right? That we do all that we can do as alumni of these particular colleges and universities to make sure that they thrive, that they do have access, that they do have the needed and necessary resources, that they can compete in a competing world, right? I mean, that they can, at the HBCU, they will not be last, late, or lost in anything simply because they did not go to a predominantly white institution. That, yes, even in athletics and in sports, that we can provide opportunities for those guys and those girls who want to be a part of athletics on a professional level. Yes, we as the alumni see to it that we encourage connections and businesses and corporations to undergird the idea that, yes, there is still relevance at the HBCU level, but there are a lot of times we lack the resources. And so definitely, that's exactly what we need to do. One of the things that I really want to talk about today from the resource and relevance perspective is what kind of students are we producing as currently on the HBCU campus. And, later today, I hope to talk to the dean of students from Stillman College, Xavier Jackson, just to talk about what kind of students are they prepared to be in college, because we had maybe about a decade ago some difficulty getting qualified students to be a part of our HBCUs. Now, let me tell you why that's a problem. Because the states fund those colleges and universities based upon their achievement and how the rate of that achievement, how powerful and how successful, can I say that, the level of advancement and, moving forward in matriculation of all the college students. Well, one of the missions of the historical black colleges and universities is to give those students who may not have made the mark to go to other universities via the standardized testing, the SAT, the PSAT, the ACT, Yeah, they were able to get into regular college. HBCUs will allow them to come and be a part of the culture of the HBCU, and put them in some remediation, some slower classes, some things that they should have perhaps learned in high school. Yeah, and what we found out that the states were like, okay, well. Yeah, but these students are not even in their major. They're not even, they're still doing work that they should have done in high school. And HBCUs were a lot of times penalized in terms of funding. And so HBCUs had to kind of change their metric and their matrix to be able to say, okay, well, we got to cut off some of this, or the standard to get into the HBCU had to be higher. They had to have a higher standard of scoring in the ACT and the SAT. That's why we tell you to start young and freshman, sophomore, start letting them take the test and start letting them go to classes so that they'll know how to navigate that test. Yeah. And so, they had to raise up the GPA average of those who got in. They had to raise up the level of those who could get the scholarships, the full paid scholarships. I know when I was in school, they had various levels of scholarships that they could get. And fortunately, I was able to get one at Florida A&M, and start in my major, right? Even though I went to a rural school, I didn't go to my classmates were from Chicago and Detroit and New York, California. And I was, I graduated from a rural school in South Carolina, but I got a scholarship anyway. And I had to work very hard to make sure that I could compete. And so, they had to raise the standards. And because of that, it caused a little bit of angst. Why? Because a lot of people are like, well, we're getting away from the mission of the HBCU, which is to give, students a chance. Absolutely. And, and it was good. It was good. And then it wasn't so good on the state level. And those students are those schools that were supported by state funding. And so, yeah, a lot of HBCUs had to change, again, their standards of how they allowed, who they allowed, and just how they allowed students to come in, and a lot of them did not want to do it. And that was probably a couple of years after I graduated, maybe about 95, 96, 97. They had to change that so that they could get, merit scholars. Our school was number one in national merit scholars in the country at the time. So, we didn't have to deal so much with that. But then the state legislature in Florida was predominantly Republican at the time. And so, yeah, you know how that goes, right? And so what we're finding and what we had found then was that we needed to partner with high schools and middle schools as HBCUs and helping them achieve certain rates and certain levels of academic understanding, academic success, so that they could, yes, on the first time, enter into the HBCU system or the collegiate system, shall I say that, no matter if they went to HBCUs or not, but HBCUs were, of course, using that as a funnel. And so, one of the things that deeply concerned me is, the students that we have today that are in high school and middle school, are they really being introduced formally to the HBCU system in their states, right? Your teacher might have went to an HBCU, or the principal might have went, the band director might have went to an HBCU. But I'm talking about the connection between the HBCU system and the high schools. Is there a connection that, a funnel? Are HBCUs participating amply in the college fairs? Are they offering scholarships? Are they identifying students? Are they tracking them? Kind of like how athletics does, that they see a brilliant student in their freshman, their sophomore year, and they begin tracking them from that, so that when they get to, to that college level, that they can recruit that student at that particular college. Are we doing that at HBCUs? I think that's very important, because a lot of times I believe tremendous talent and possibility slips through the hands of our black colleges and universities because of our either lack of engagement on the high school level, or, which causes a lack of awareness. And they think that, hey, I don't even know, that this was available to me. I didn't even know I could go to an HBCU. I didn't even know that, this was offered to me. And you would be surprised. See, I think we make a very bad assumption in the black community that we think that every black child has been exposed to an HBCU. And I'm going to tell you, no, absolutely not. And that's for various levels and the various ranges of, of that. When we talk about it, either their parents have a particular aversion against HBCUs because it's so many black people and we don't like, how they run their business and blah, blah, blah. They could have, those things like that go on. And so, some black parents will say, well, my child will never go to HBCU because they are limited. I mean, I've seen it all. Or they've been in a predominantly private school, a white school where they've not had any kind of exposure to black culture and those things. And, they just don't know. They have no interest. It was just, I know when I was in school and met people from FSU, Florida State, they were like, we didn't even know that this was available. That it was their first time, because if you know anything about geography in Tallahassee, and even though I know this is Alabama, it's just they right across the tracks. It's like a track where that separates Florida State from Florida A&M. And you would meet black people that went to Florida State, and you'd be like, oh, we didn't even know that was over there. And they would be at our school for most of our games, most of our dances, most of the shows and all of that. They got immersed in that culture, in the black culture there, and just like the dichotomy and the dynamic here is in Tuscaloosa, that yes, you have Stillman College, but then you have the behemoth of University of Alabama. And I only call it behemoth because it is so huge, it is so large, and then you have Stillman College. And so, some students that go to UA, like, I don't even know about HBCU. I didn't even know it was possible. You'll be surprised at how people just do not know. We talked about it yesterday. They don't know about HBCU. They have no awareness beyond the particular lack of exposure. There's a particular aversion because sometimes graduates from HBCUs talk so very bad about HBCUs, talking about the financial aid line, and I get it, talk about the cafeteria, talk about the dorms, and, and then we'll come to homecoming and we're like, yo, go to this school, go Hornets, go Tigers, go Rattlers, and we'll push it up during homecoming, but when we get into regular space, we'll talk so down about it, right? And then, normally what I ask people that speak adversely about HBCUs who attended HBCUs and graduated from the school, what are you doing with your money? Are any of your dollars going to, or alumni dollars going to any kind of fund, providing any kind of scholarship to the university? Man, I gave them enough money when I was in school, right? And here's the truth. Our counterparts do not have that idea. They do not have that idea. Absolutely. That I gave them enough when I went there. I'm still paying student loans and I'm still doing that. Yeah, I get it. I understood it. I understand it. But yeah, is your plan that after you finish paying student loans, will you then support your HBCU? Because they got to have that whole idea of exposure. And that exposure has to understand that when you market it and you push it, that yes, HBCUs have expenses. And we already talked about how states underfund HBCUs. So some of our conversation and our dialogue and our language that's anti-HBCU has to change within our community. Yeah, has to change within our community. We cannot allow our own mouths to destroy the things and the bridges that brought us over. And HBCUs are definitely one of those bridges. And so, yeah, today we're going to just talk about what we can do to fortify and help students become more aware, connected, and attend HBCUs. Right. Listen, this is the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, right here on Praise 93.3 FM. Got so much to do with this show today. I don't want you to miss a solitary thing. Keep it right here.
This is a world premiere.
we are back right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith on Praise 93.3. And we are having a fabulous day on this morning. Absolutely. Listen, we're in a tremendous conversation about the significance of HBCUs, their relevance and resources, and what we can do to connect more of our young people and provide an avenue to attend HBCUs. And as we said in our last segment, I've got a friend that's going to come on a little later in the show from the Stillman College, the Dean of Students, Xavier Jackson. We're going to be talking a little bit about student engagement, how we can, as the community, partner with HBCUs, Stillman in particular, since it's right here in town, but HBCUs wherever you are, and how we can provide a pathway for that connection. I believe 1,000% in HBCUs. I am a card-carrying HBCU fan. Yes, that's right. You can keep your argument. I've got the evidence that HBCUs produce significant leadership. They produce amazing, awesome people, and I would not trade it for the world. Absolutely. Listen, and so we've been talking about this whole idea of how we can create pathways for our young people to really understand and assess the benefit of what it means to be a part of the HBCU culture. And I still believe that HBCU culture and awareness is still shaping the American social and cultural demographic that we experience today. You know that it is, I think, a different world started in the late 1980s, mid to late 1980s, and it is still showing twice a day today, at least on TV One. You know, because, and I sit there and I watch it and I relive my own college experience. And I am glad and grateful, as I told you yesterday, that all of my kids, they went to an HBCU. My wife and I, we graduated from HBCUs. Our parents were part of HBCUs. I mean, and we are some amazing people. I've got some of the most brilliant children on the face of the planet. I believe it. Yeah. My daughter, she attended Spelman College, and Spelman was difficult to get back in those days, and it's still one of the hardest schools to get into now. And I remember when that light blue envelope came in the mail. I mean, it was a day in the Smith household. We were so super proud of her. But the way that happened was my dad. My dad told her, she and my daughter wanted to go to FAMU. As a matter of fact, my daughter and my son, they both wanted to go to FAMU. And where their parents went. And my dad said, yeah, I know that, but my grandkids need to go to Spelman and Morehouse. And doggone it, my son got into Morehouse. Man, that was a trip and a journey there, and just did amazingly well there, graduating magna cum laude. Yeah, I mean, my daughter was amazing at Spelman, and then my baby son, he went to Troy, started off at Troy, and we looked like, okay, no. Because if there's any Black Panther in the family, it would be my baby son. So him going to Troy was really funny, but yeah, we knew what was going to happen. It didn't work out, and he transferred to Florida A&M, and he graduated a few years ago. So, yes, I mean, my prayer is that even the extended generations of our family would attend HBCUs, because I am telling you, don't listen to the people that might have gripes. And yes, all of us, I had to stand in the line at the financial aid office. And yes, I did indeed have to wait a while to get my refund check. I did. I really, really did. But the experience was just amazing. I tell you what, those processes, even currently now, I'm in school now, getting another degree at an HBCU. I'm at the Samuel DeWitt Proctor School of Theology in Virginia Union University. And one of the things that our dean tells us is trust the process. And yes, an HBCU is a process. If you think, let me go and tell you right now, if you think that it's easy matriculating through an HBCU like it's high school part 2, you are sadly mistaken. That the level of challenge and intensity and academic pressure on the HBCU campus differs nothing. It comes in second to no other place, no other institution of higher learning, anywhere in the country or in the world. That HBCUs have the same academic rigor, even sometimes more. And then the professors there, because most of them are Black, they understand the particular atmosphere and the particular environment that our children are going to have to face when they graduate. They understand because they've faced it themselves. And I think that once you connect them, connect to an HBCU, your child does anyway, they start producing from day one a family. And I'm just talking about people that hang out in your dorm rooms. No, I mean, we went to each other's houses on the weekend, spent the night. We, met other moms, met other dads, got aunties and uncles and all of that. That was the only way that one of the ways that we survived. Absolutely. That HBCU process. And if your child is entitled, then now you might not send them to an HBCU, because one of the things that HBCUs do is they level the playing field. We are all, Black, and we are all whatever the mascot is. But if you come to school with a silver spoon in your mouth, or your child is used to you doing everything for them, they will have a very, very rude awakening when they attend an HBCU. And that is a good thing. Yes, that's right, because HBCUs turn your Black youth into Black adults. That's right. That, yes, making them wait, making them understand. And I'm not saying that, that there are not things that HBCUs should work on. And guess what? What you find out is that it's everywhere. Whether it's a PWI or a Black college and university, they have to work out some things in administration and systems and all of those different kinds of things. It's just that other schools have a greater level of access to resources that causes them to move a little bit quicker in advancement. But the truth of the matter is, it happens to all schools, right? So, yeah. And one of the things that we really need to understand as the Black community is that, especially in this environment, in this this post-MAGA, post-Trumpian environment, and I'm going to say post as a prophetic, right? Because we know that we're still kind of mired into that inclusion and not having to fight for your identity and fight for your worth and fight microaggressions and fight, this, do I belong? Where do I belong? Do I belong on this campus? You don't want your child doesn't want to have to deal with the whole idea of, did you get in legitimately? Did you get in because you are really academically intelligent, because you measured that in terms of that? Or are you just an add-on because you are Black? That's a country that's in this country right now. We have to face that. We've got to look at that in the face. And you've got to start asking yourself, do I want my child to go through that? And if you do not, you need to begin, check out the HBCUs, because immediately when that child comes on that campus, they're going to be filled with people that look like them, that people in which they belong, and people and leaders and teachers and professors that will get them to understand the full element of who they are culturally, anthropologically, who they are as Black people in America. And you can't deny that. They're going to see, the Divine Nine. They're going to see the AKAs and the Alphas, the Kappas and the Omegas, the Zetas and the Sigmas. They're gonna see the Iotas and Sigma Gamma Rho. They're going to see all of that into play. They're going to see all of that. They're going to be immersed in the culture of the HBCU yard, if you will, right? I think one of the things that shows a wonderful HBCU yard is Stump the Yard. I think that is an amazing movie that kind of gives you that dynamic. It gives you that it shows you the maturity. It shows you the diversity that's available at the HBCU. It shows you the entertainment factor on the campus. Drumline was another one of those, and that movie was loosely based off of our band, the Family Marching 100. And, you get to see the culture, the marching band culture, the music that they can identify with. Yeah. All of that, that you get that whole understanding. I saw this morning when I was preparing to come to the show, A Different World. I think this morning Freddie had just found at Hillman a place underneath their, foundation or in one of the walls, a place that had the Underground Railroad that came through the university going up for the enslaved, going up north. And it was a big feature there. It was all of that immersion that our young people can have if we would begin to understand what is the power and the significant advantage of attending an HBCU. And again, I know I would have some to push back on me and say, well, we got a black student union at this PWI. And, that argument has been in existence since I've been in college. And I'm sure probably some of you who are older than me has been in your experience as well. And I get it. And I applaud you for a Black Student Union at a PWI, and I applaud you getting together and sticking together as a black people. But there is a reason. There is no Black Student Union at a HBCU. There is simply students. There is no cultural signification there, right? There is simply students, right? We just have a student government. There is no need to carve out a niche and to try to replicate or try to import, if I can say it like that, the black culture because you don't see it on campus. It is not primarily represented. It is not primarily defended. It is not inherent to that cultural space at another school, right? So you have to create this kind of thing to feel like you have a particular, cosmology that is familiar with you and understands what it means to be that. Well, that's not, you don't have to do that at an HBCU, right? Yeah, you can experience diversity. You can experience all of that without feeling a level of racialized animus that, sometimes happens when you don't go to an HBCU, right? But again, I'm not casting any kind of aspersions. I'm telling you the reality. And that's what we do here at the Culture Call family. I'm going to tell you what it is. And that's one of the struggles that when a lot of our black students go to other schools and universities, they feel that, we are the minority here. So we need to create this and we need to create that, right? We need to XYZ and ABC. We need to carve out a space in this overwhelming niche of majority. We need to carve out something that minorities can thrive and see a reflection of themselves on this campus. And what I'm saying to you is that is not done. It's not necessary at an HBCU. It's not. Because, again, most of the people look like you. Absolutely. Most of the people look like you. And, one of the things that's so very fascinating is a lot of the mislabeling, the misnomers, the misinterpretation, the misidea, the mischaracterizations of HBCU culture in this country is a lot of times that it is inferior, and it is not. It is not at all. I'm telling you right now that enrollment is increasing. And one of the reasons why enrollment is increasing is that the current climate, students are understanding, I need to be in a safe space. I need to be in a space where the people look like me, where the people understand my demographic, the people understand my parents, the people understand my community, the people understand my struggle in the world, in the context of the world, that they're not just trying to academically educate me, but they're also socially and culturally and interpersonally invested in the life I will live beyond this campus. And I think that's important. I think that is valuable for our students who are now going to school where there is no African American history taught, Black history taught. They're stripping the school systems and, out of those courses, away from those courses. They're getting rid of that in the name of, getting rid of wokeism. Oh, my God. Getting away of all those other things. That part. You see? And so they're coming home, if we can say it like that. They're coming home to HBCUs, right? And yet we still have a lot of work to do. And that coming home, that we need to get them to understand, what does coming home look like? What does that being a part of this community look like? One of the things about HBCUs, we'll talk about each other. It's just like family. We'll talk about each other, but you who have not gone to an HBCU, you can't talk about us. Absolutely. That. Bethune-Cookman and Florida A&M can talk about each other. Florida Memorial can talk about Edward Waters. We can talk about each other, right? But don't come from Florida State or University of Miami trying to talk noise. No, because even though they did not go to our particular institutions, we understand that HBCU is family, and that's all across the country, and that's no matter where you go, right? That I am as welcome at Tuskegee. I'm as welcome at Alabama State, Alabama A&M, as I am any place, because we understand what it means to be a part of an HBCU. Absolutely. We know about each other. We care about each other. Now, we're going to jank on each other because we're in the midst of football season right now. Let me tell you a thing or 12. We're in, listen, and we're going to talk smack. We're going to get in our chat rooms. We're going to do that. But at the end of the day, we are all family. And I think that is something different. That is something different about the whole HBCU culture. Because no matter what the title of your school is, we all have to live as Black Americans in this country. And we all have to navigate, no matter where we graduated from, what halls we matriculated through. We all have the same kind of pressure when we leave those halls. So we've got to be family. Definitely. And so we want our children and our grandchildren to be a part of that family as well. Yeah. And so, we're pushing that, we're promoting that, and we're saying long live HBCUs because they are so necessary in the world in which we live, just as necessary as when they were founded back in the 1800s, some as late as the 1900s, So we're still promoting that. Listen, give me a call, 205-752-4800, or hit me up on the app. Let me know what you think about the show. This is the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, right here on Praise 93.3. Got much more to come. Don't miss it.
This is a world premiere.
And we are back right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, Praise 93.3. It's the top of the hour. That's right, 11 a.m. and some change. And we are having an amazing day today. And I pray, if you're just joining us, guess what? We have had already a wonderful first hour of the Culture Call. But listen, you caught us at the right time. And because we've got more conversation. We've been talking about HBCUs, and there's the significance of the HBCU community and culture to America, their relevance and their resources. And it's a connected conversation that we had from yesterday. I think it's so very important that as the Black community, we begin to foster a sense of worth for what I call one of the significant bridges that have brought us over in this country, and that is the historical Black college and universities. And I shout out to all of them that, do the work that they need to do, all 107 of them, and the 14 right here in the state of Alabama. Again, I did not have the fortunate opportunity to go to an HBCU in Alabama, but I did go to one of the best, Florida A&M University, and I am so excited to be a part of the HBCU family and community. Listen, I always want to remind you that you can call in 205-752-4800, and definitely you can hit me up on the app and let me know what you think about the show. Those of you who have been hitting me up afterwards saying, hey, I listened to the broadcast, and man, thank you for talking about HBCUs. Thank you for talking about all of the subjects. I am super, super pleased and super proud. But listen, I've got the guest today. I told you on our first half that we were going to have an amazing guy to come sit in with us. He is the Dean of Student Life at the illustrious Stillman College right here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Mr. Xavier Jackson, and he's going to be Dr. Xavier Jackson really soon. But I am grateful and glad to have him on with me, just to kind of talk about, HBCUs. He is responsible for making sure the student life and activities on the campus of Stillman College is flourishing. It's student inviting, student healthy. It causes them to understand, not just their place on the HBCU campus, but also their place in the world. And he is significant in connecting, the university, the college with churches and community, being a bridge to help students understand that there is more life than just on this campus, and he is doing an amazing and tremendous job there. I believe it's his first year in this job, but he is making an impact on that campus like none other. Y'all help me welcome Mr. Xavier Jackson. What's happening, Zay?
What's going on?
What's happening? I'm glad that you are here, man. I'm glad that you're here, and to help me talk about this significant subject. We've been talking about HBCUs for the last couple of days, but kind of just let them know what you do there as Dean of Student Life on Stillman campus.
So currently, as the Dean of Student Life, it is my responsibility to foster a sense of community and family for the student body, to make sure that, to make sure that they are well engaged as well. And as they matriculate through campus, that they continue to not only stay engaged and involved, but they get the development that they need as leaders moving forward throughout their college career.
Yeah, that's good, because I think when students come from out of high school, that might be something that they don't have. That, that whole idea of how do I develop these leadership skills and these community connective skills to help me thrive in life. And so I think one of the important things, is they have you there to kind of help bridge that gap between, okay, you got 4 years to develop this and get this connection and then move out into this. What gave you this desire to kind of work with students in this way, to engage them in this way?
In this role, it's very funny how I got into the role, and I say funny as in hilarious because it was all God.
Yeah.
So I'm able to relate because I have been a student.
Yeah.
I've been a student for many years, but I'm also very young as well too.
Right.
I think I might be the second youngest dean that Stillman has had.
Wow.
And I've had some conversations with other people that I might just be the youngest dean in the state.
Right.
If not the country, because I'm in my 30s, early 30s.
Yeah.
So it's something that's been very important to me, because I realize as our generations are moving into this stages of their life, that they don't always know how to articulate what they need, what they want, the type of development that they're seeking, but they do know. Some know where they want to go. Right. Others may not.
Right.
I spent time on both sides of that, not knowing what I wanted to do, but also knowing what I wanted to do.
Right.
Not having the development for that. So I think it was very clever of God to bring this opportunity to me, because I never sought out for higher education.
Right.
I just ended up being one of those people that was well-rounded and always received well by people in higher administration.
Right.
That always wanted my opinion.
Yeah.
And it was one of those moments where I prayed and I said, okay, Lord, what do you want me to do? Because I'm tired and I'm ready to go. And I got a call from Dr. Warwick's office, the former president, and she asked me to consider the role. And it's been great to serve now under our 8th president, Dr. Yolanda Page, who has been incredible about wanting a fostered sense of family, of home, pride.
Right.
And that's something we kind of have been missing.
Yeah.
So we want that more so in the campus. So you came out one day on campus where I was with the students. We grilled.
Yeah.
We had all kinds of food. We wanted it to be like home. So there were ribs, there were burgers, there was
and it was
mac and cheese, twice baked mashed potatoes. It was the only thing I was upset that I didn't get to do was my greens. I wanted to do my greens, but there were no greens. But the students were so excited about it. The campus was very thriving. There was music. That's what we want on a daily basis. Yeah. I think what we have kind of gotten away from is what that culture looks like. Yeah. Especially there is that nuance of the duality of being a HBCU and a Presbyterian institution. Yeah. And that is a challenge that we're seeing now. How do we meld the two together? What do we do? How can we make sure that the culture is fostered the way that we want to see it, but it's fostered in a way that is well presented, well represented, and well received at the same time? Yeah. I mean, and I was out there. It was hot too. To add that, but I saw how the students interacted with you and how you interacted with the students and the significance. And I think that is, as you say, divinely strategic because sometimes they put deans in those places that they're 50, 60, 70 years old, but they're removed so far from the time demographic and the age demographic of the students that they can't relate. Agreed. And so what you had out there in terms of, doing for them and with them was something that they could see themselves, it wasn't somebody, why these kids doing that? Why they playing this music? Why they wearing this? That wasn't your posture. It was like, hey, come show up how you are, be a part of the campus life, be mature. Right. And you can live in this space. One of the things I always, when I go on college campuses, whether it's Stillman, Florida A&M or whatever HBCU that I'm on, I'm challenged to look at the students in terms of how much are they getting, how much have they been influenced by the outside culture, because this is an academic culture, right? How difficult it is to bridge those gaps, and what is the college and or university doing to help them understand that yes, you can have your culture and your age range, but this is a institution of higher learning. How are you bridging that gap? I think in what you just said is come and be mature. We have to start in a posture of come immature. Oh, wow. Because if we don't open that mindset in receiving them in a immature state, we'll never be able to foster them into a mature state. Right. So in that level of maturation that we're looking at, we have to first meet them there and then help them through the evolution, stay with them through the evolution of now you're where we're trying to get you. Right. Because to be honest, every student that we come in contact with, we might not see a finish line with them because there are certain anomalies that will come with it. They may transfer. They may stop out. They might not have enough aid. They might not have the family support, those different things. So where you can start out in a level with them, whether they are already mature or if they are immature, you don't know which one, you don't know where the finish line will be. Yeah. So it's about first receiving them there and then moving with them. Yeah. And I think that for me has helped me understand for me specifically, because when I was in undergrad, I made good grades. I was decent, but graduating not from an HBCU, from a PWI, the University of Alabama, the plus and minus system is very disrespectful to anyone academically. The B minuses, the A minuses, they did not help. I might as well have just had C's. Right. So I did finish with a 2.6. Right. So that is not the most beautiful GPA to finish with, but I did finish. Right. And I did finish, decent. Yeah. However, when I got to the graduate level, I went not supported by people that were more indirect or more directly in my corner. Right. So moving to that space, there was one who said, I'm not going to help you apply for this institution. And my response to her respectfully was, I didn't ask you for your assistance. And I wasn't being rude, but that's something I know that God has also been working with me on, is standing up for myself. Right. So this was now almost 10 years ago. It was 16.
Yeah.
I think 16.
Uh-huh.
We were talking, 16 going in 17. We were talking about it. And she was like, I'm not going to help you. That's fine. So then I went to London, did the double master's there. Great. And I was well received there. The things that I learned there was impeccable. And there they do a dissertation starting in your bachelor's at the bachelor's level. So I had to learn the learning curve of writing there that was so different. Believe it or not, both masters, I graduated at the top of my class.
Right.
Not the top, but I was in the top percentile.
Right.
So that's great because the first master's, it was magna cum laude.
Yeah.
Second master's was summa cum laude.
Right.
The second master's, that merit is what they call it. I can get into almost any institution over there and they pay for it.
Right.
But I said all of that to say when I got to 2.6, I was still immature, still trying to figure out what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I was a little bit older than the other students, but I still didn't know what specifically I wanted to do, how I wanted to do it. I just knew I wanted to do entertainment. I just know I wanted to do dance. Like that was it.
Yeah.
So that was my focus. But again, higher ed, I was mentored by the dean of students there.
Right.
I had a relationship with an executive director who is now an AVP. I had like all these different relationships that I always stayed in close proximity in higher education.
Right.
And once I came back, and before I left, I was also working at the University of Alabama.
That's wow.
So it was like that. My journey there is what keeps me relative to the students and keep me in a posture of come immature because we can help you.
And I love that process because I don't think as long as I've been dealing with higher education, I've never heard that come immature. Because one of the things they told us, you gotta grow up, you're gonna become mature, and coming out of high school, you're trying to figure out, well, how do you do that? I mean, I'm living in my parents' house, they're paying for my food, I don't have any rent, you know what I'm saying? I got a car in college, I didn't get a car in high school, right? And so all of the responsibilities, my mama done woke me up to go to class, you know what I'm saying? They told me when it was time to eat. And I'm talking to my senior year.
Right.
And so I'm coming on this campus of thousands at Florida A&M, immature, you know, but you're trying to make it seem like you're not, but you're so green in so many areas. But I love that process that you just said, that our students, they need the ability to come immature because the campus, the students, everybody has to know, well, not the students, but the faculty has to know these kids are not coming ready.
Right.
They academically,
right,
they're coming ready.
Right.
Because they wouldn't have gotten in if they didn't.
Well, some, not all.
And that, right. We talked about that in other element of the hour. And then, so they have to have a situation to where that helps them grow up in a safe environment.
Yes.
And, that's one of the things that I can say just by observation as, on the campus with you, looking at how you deal with them, how you treat them, how you speak to them, how you help them, make their decisions, their own decisions, to develop their own way of thinking. That's helping them mature. Tell me, what do you think is one of the challenges on the greatest challenges on the for HBCUs connecting with Black youth today? What if you had to look at it from your perspective, what would it be? Is it that thing that we're not qualified enough, or they don't have exposure to HBCUs? HBCUs are not doing enough in the community to bring awareness. What would you say as the Dean of Student Life is one of the barriers of connecting HBCUs to those potential students?
One could definitely say it's all of those things. I would say two things. One, you taught this when I first got here, but you also spoke about it again at chapel.
Right.
As the hymn says, to serve a present age, my calling to fulfill.
Right.
Which leads into the second point of innovation.
Yeah.
And what we have not done very well just yet is coming to that posture of to serve a present age, my calling to fulfill. As an institution, as a corporation, as a business, that's what we're here for. Yeah. This is what we do. You're the customer. So how do we reach this present age, which means how do we innovate to reach this present age?
Right.
How does the resources that we bring in to aid this customer base, how do we make sure that it's in an innovative way that it helps us on the back end
right.
for the backlog, the back channels of things. But then how do we make sure that it is front facing or forward facing and it brings all the nutrients and vitamins and vitality to the students that we need it to have?
Right.
How do we continuously ask questions of what we have in present that may be of days of old? How do we innovate that to make sure that it does provide what we're looking for?
Right.
So does that mean we create more hybrid roles? Do we have people within the enrollment that are also working with student life? Or are they in enrollment also working with, well, I guess it is still student life within residential life.
Right.
So we can help with the understanding what the campus culture needs, understanding what different pieces. I think if we had, with the right structure, very strategic structure, I think more hybrid roles could potentially be an answer. I'm not saying that it is the answer, but that could help some things because we do go into an international institution. One thing that I loved about being there, while I was there, I did learn that I did despise, I will say, is they talk, but they don't talk enough to the other departments.
Right.
So I remember knocking on the door one day saying, hey, I'm starting the second master's, but I can't go to my classes because you haven't done this part of my paperwork. And the lady says to me, well, you're going to have to come back next year. Ma'am, excuse me. I'm 4,000 plus miles away.
Right.
I'm living overseas and I've already moved in and I'm working 2 jobs on campus while managing another team or, department in another country.
Right.
What do you mean I have to go home? That's not feasible. That's not the answer. So we're going to figure this out today.
Right.
So that was great, but every student doesn't know how to do that. So I feel like at that point, I handled myself well, yes, but it's another piece of how do we create those roles where they are talking to one another because they are synonymous with one another.
Yeah. I think that was key and critical when I was at Florida A&M. There was probably a shadow of what you're talking about that. Their job was there is no student going to be left behind. And if they have difficulty, from the day you walk on this campus, come to me and whatever you need, we'll work it out.
Yeah.
It was never, oh, well, I'm sorry, we can't. No, because, they made every student feel like, you're going to succeed here. You were smart enough to get in. And so our job, as you say, is to view you as not just a consumer, but one of our children to say, hey, we need to definitely make sure that we do what we can do and pull the strings.
Yes.
Pull the strings. I think high school students believe that only exists at a PWI. That's what I'm talking about. Black students.
Right.
They think that, I'll get that at UA, or I'll get that at FSU, or I'll get that at a white, Auburn.
Because we see the resources.
Right, because they see the resources, not even understanding that there is a Xavier Jackson there that can be that kind of person. There is a Daphne Hood that's going to help you. What can we do better than as HBCUs to expose that element that to leave no child left behind, to connect with these kids from high school all the way through however long it takes to matriculate through the university to college? What can we do better?
I think a very sore spot is starting within the internal network and relationships internally first of how you have to look back at what is the culture like for the staff and the faculty that are connecting with these students on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Because if they are coming to work feeling as if I really don't want to be here, I'm trying to figure out this next step. This is too sour. When you meet Xavier, when he walks in the door, you might not want to help Xavier at that point. You might help Xavier to a little piece, but you wouldn't do the part that the full state, let's say the full stature of nurturing that is within you, because you're dealing with other elements and other pieces of things that you don't necessarily want to deal with, but they are literally, you can't compartmentalize at that point because it's taken over everything.
Right.
So I think where one would probably say, yeah, that might not be the answer. I think that is one of the first answers is finding out how to strengthen that relationship, because what I have found out, again, going back to corporations, businesses, when you have a staff or team that is excited about what they do,
Yeah.
You'll always know that there's a Xavier, there's a Daphne Hood. You'll always know that there are these people that are at this institution doing this work because you won't even have to put them on the pedestal. The work that they do will not only speak for itself, but it will cause them to be in the forefront and in the light to be well represented and to be a better representative of your business or institution.
Right. Because I think, again, I've been both a recipient and both as a participant and an oral listener to some of the horror stories of dealing with staff and faculty at a HBCU. And that's one of the negative things. Once I graduate, I'm never going to come back. I'm never going to come back. It took me a while just to get some of the students at our church healed because they had such an interesting experience at the on the HBCU level. And I think that that's very important that we begin to, from an institutional level, there has to be some level of intimacy, some level of connection. First of all, number one, it ain't that many people where we can be so disconnected. You know what I'm saying? When you're dealing with 5,000, 7,000, 1,000, and that kind of thing, we should be connected. My professor could call the dean's office and say, hey, I got Smith in here and I need to change a grade for him. And hey, I need you. All right, man, I'll get it done. I'll get it done and I'll connect Smith. Just tell him to come over here and sign this paper.
Right.
That's the level of friendship that they had, that a professor could call the dean on the phone. But when you're having that institutional disconnect that, that's their department, I don't have anything to do with that, then you don't feel a consistent level of help and assistance. And like you said, some of these students are coming to college, their parents just simply drop them off. They don't have that family support. So they don't have anybody to call if anything goes wrong. So it's left up to the college or the university to kind of make those things happen. What are you currently doing now, or what would you like to see done? Let me, just see how we can prognosticate on Stillman's campus that would better improve student life to attract more students, because more students, more funding, better facilities, better opportunities, better programming, all of that. What are you hoping to see in the near future that Stillman employs to do on the campus to better connect this next generation of high school graduates?
Being relative through relationship.
Yeah.
And I say relative through relationship because we're in the day, we had the opportunity to go to the Revolt World Summit that they had, or World Conference in Atlanta. It was great. It was an HBCU bus tour that they did. It was Stillman College and Alabama State and A&M. I want to say it might have been one other school, but they sent buses to us to come, and spend the day there. There was mental health things. There was not a college fair, but like a job fair. There was a lot of things, and then there were artists. One thing I thought was very unique was all of the speakers were not doctors or philosophers. They were artists, music artists.
Yeah.
The people that it was someone I sat in on his conversation, and it was as if it was a TED Talk. It was his very first one, and he really enjoyed it, but I could tell what it meant for him as well, too.
Sure.
It was great because they got to see all these different things, but they got to see people that are more relative to them in these roles. Not that they all want to be singers, rappers, influencers. We do have a lot more students that are coming in that want to be influencers, or that are already influencers. They're just also getting the degree as well. I think if we were able to get more students or more representation for the students that look like where they want to go, what they want to do, as we give them that, what we're entitled to give them in terms of putting the education in front of them, the people that come from those backgrounds. If we could put both of those in the same space, we could really produce a very well-rounded student that is able to get what they're looking for and what they need at the same time. So that's something I have begun to do with the dance team, at least, because that's what I was doing solely before I became the dean of students. We created, because we don't have a dance major or minor, I created curated a program to where the dancers can come in and be a part of a professional dance teams program. So they're learning liturgical, ballet, modern, jazz, contemporary, majorette, African. We're doing all styles. We don't stop it, and it's within well practice because my bachelor's and my master's, one of my masters is in dance.
Right.
So with the research that I've done and things like that, I've been able to curate that while they get the degrees that they have come to Stillman for.
Yeah.
So they get the best of both worlds, and they're also learning within the dance teams program how to be a part of the creative element behind it. One thing that I definitely despised as a dancer was, why am I only good enough to you to be the talent in front of the camera?
Right.
Why can't I be the person on the other side of it and paying people to do these things?
Right.
So we just did a video shoot on Saturday. I was the executive creative director and all that kind of stuff, but I pulled the dancers in also to learn that piece of it. Okay, so we can't do this. We had a scene we wanted to use pools for.
Right.
It's too cold. Can't use pools. Okay, so what can we do?
Right.
They said, okay, what about desks? Okay. So in the shoot, we shot on top of the desk, but I also made sure there was that risk management piece in there where we had people that anchored the desk to make sure when they got on the dance, to dance on the desk, that it was anchored down.
Yeah.
Great. Cool. Now they have directing credits, they have choreography credits, they have all these different credits to start their IMDb pages.
Right.
And that's what we're working on next for them, so that this way, when they leave here, they are not just a dancer with credits. They're a dancer with credits and a degree for whatever they want to do. My captain right now, she came in, she wanted to do, she wanted to be a dermatologist. Then she changed from that to do something else within nursing. Then she changed from nursing to do, she's changed, but this is a student with a 3-point plus GPA that can choose to make these changes or whatever, because she can always dance. I took her to London. She performed with some of the other dancers. They all performed there. That's great for her resume. But then she also has on this side, she is not Dina's Stu. She's Dean's List. She's done all these other things. She has all of these academic accolades. So now she can marry the two together, be the hybrid that no one has been looking for, or no one has known that they needed.
Right.
And be exactly who she wants to be out in the world.
Wow. Culture Call, we've got Dean Xavier Jackson from Stillman College, Dean of Student Life here, dropping some major science and all of the things that's available right here on the campus of Stillman College, but at HBCUs, challenging all of us. And so, I need you to keep it right here. This is the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. Listen, we're going to take a little break. I need you to stay right there. We've got more to come. Don't miss it.
This is a world premiere.
And we are back, family, right here on the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith. And I've gotten here sitting with me, the illustrious Dean of Students at Stillman College, Mr. Xavier Jackson. And I'm telling you, he has been really enlightening us of not just what's going on Stillman's campus on that student life side, but what should be happening at HBCUs to attract more students. And I am so glad and grateful that he is here. You know, Xavier, I think one of the things that's very important that you intimated in the last segment was this whole idea of relativity and being able to relate. And, one of the things back in the 80s, early 90s that really connected me to the desire of going to an HBCU was a different world, and that whole idea of I wanted to be on campus. First of all, I wanted to go to Stillman. I mean, the Hillman. I wanted to go to Hillman College. I wanted to see Denise and all these figures, and that kind of kept with me throughout my college career. This idea that I'm a part of this big family and this big HBCU world, right? And I think that's one of the things that was afforded to me at that time. My question to you is, do you think that the students today are being affected by a different world because it's still on, or being affected by a drumline or a stump the yard, those things that we grew up on that kind of gave us a different picture? Are they still being affected by that, or is their desire to be a part of the HBCU culture different, something totally different now?
I think it's both.
Okay.
A different world, I still watch to this day.
Yeah,
it's
definitely
one of my favorite things.
Right.
And actually, at homecoming, I want to say 21 or 22. We had someone from Living Single and someone from A Different World.
Wow.
Both come to campus, did the podcast and everything. It was great. And in speaking with her, I was like, oh my God, this is one of my favorite shows. And my favorite thing every time there is an audition is for, I forget the name of the character, but she gets up and she does the, when the Saints go marching, and then she always sing, but not out, but in, yes.
Gina.
Gina's audition is always, it's iconic to me because she gets stuck on not out, but in. Right. But I do think it is, but we need more things like that.
Okay.
I see students who wear a Living Singles Not Friends shirt.
Yeah.
And just like even the movie that just came out, The Blackening, we screened it on campus, and one of the things that made the crowd laugh was when they asked who were the 5 black characters that were on Friends, that were featured on Friends. And they go around and they're trying to answer the question in the movie. And then the answer is wrong because they have successfully named all 5. But the answer was supposed to be, I'm black, I watched Living Single.
Right, okay, yeah, right.
And that was everyone's response in the audience was, I'm black, I watched Living Single, although I watched both Friends and Living Single.
Right.
I think that it's one of those things like Drumline, like you mentioned, Living Single,
Stump the Yard.
Yeah. All those, they are literally culture classics for us. So they still watch those. We still talk about them. We were joking about how Band Student Today reminds us of Miles because of his cornrows.
Right.
So it, like, everyone knew that and they thought it was funny. It's those things that I think are very important to the culture, that we need more films, we need more TV shows, we need more things that within entertainment that represent the culture. But right now, most of the programming is not necessarily representative of HBCU culture. I know BET did have one called The Quad a couple years ago.
Yeah.
That was pretty good, but it's no longer airing. So we don't have things like that. We do have some reality TV shows where you kind of see Black millennials coming up that Issa Rae has done that's on HBO, that they are trying to figure out what they want to do with life, and they're doing businesses and things like that. But other than that, we don't have that representation depicted. So it's up to us on campuses to curate the culture that we want to see.
Yeah.
And I have thought of creating a movie series where we showed all Black films, nothing but Black films. And I know it's nothing new under the sun, but we were talking about domestic violence. So they wanted to watch A Thin Line Between Love and Hate. What do y'all know about A Thin Line Between Love and Hate?
Right, that part.
Right. So they wanted to watch that and then have a discussion afterwards about the Title IX issues within domestic violence, which is great. So that's how we can marry those two together for programming's sake. But we don't have that depiction that we need that is current to look at the current culture of HBCU campuses. Yeah. That's my concern. That's one of the things that I really appreciate about, TV One continuing showing that. But my concern is, are they showing it from a very relative position? Mm-hmm. Well, you have a very unique stance, and I want to get your take on it. We're almost at the end of our show, but you you graduated from University of Alabama. Yes.
Undergrad. And then you have you got your teeth into this HBCU culture. Mm-hmm. And so, I think there's a lot of hypotheticals between PWI, the blacks at PWI, and the blacks at HBCU, which is predominant black. But what's one of the differences, if you can say, of terms of the fostering of who you are, uniquely you as a black man? Mm-hmm. How did you see that, or how did you see that different from being in the PWI culture, and now that you are in the HBCU culture and having to foster that sense of HBCU culture as Dean of Student Life? What's the main difference? What's some of the differences that you kind of see?
I'm going to try to answer this without getting in trouble from either campus, especially work. So what's very interesting is my undergraduate chapter for my fraternity, we actually facilitated this conversation at the University of Alabama, but we also had Stillman students to come over to be a part of the conversation. And it was a great conversation. I think it's one that needs to be had, again. But I think for me, in my experience, the difference that I've seen is the Dr. Stacey Jones, the soon-to-be Dr. LaToya Scott, and so many more relevant people, the Lawrence Jacksons. All of these people have been mentors in my life, but they were the ones that were directly connected to me that said, be unique and be unique in every space and don't shy away from it. Right. Don't shrink who you are, because if you do, you'll always lose that sense of you that is very true to you. Yeah. Working at the HBCU that I'm at now, I've been able to also be that reflection to other students and push uniqueness, push being confident in who you are 1,000% and not shying away from it. I'm not saying that it's not taught at this institution. I think it is. I don't think that it's a lot of it that we look for that comes from Black institutions in general, especially when you start talking about Black institutions and Black church. Right. I think it is one of those things that as Black people in our culture, we don't do too well with too many things that are unique. Something has got to stay the same, and that something has got to be many things.
Tradition.
It's got to be traditional. Absolutely. And the moment that we step outside of tradition is the moment that it's all red alerts. We start scrambling around. It's like the culture is at hand and it's falling apart. Well, you can't say that. You can't say that it's falling apart, because if I've been sent to be the unique individual that I am, if we all believe Jeremiah when God told him, I knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb. Right. So if you knew me before then, and we're taking from that history lesson, if you knew me before then, when I get here, how do I work with these people, or how do I be uniquely me in these spaces? And we need people like that are saying, be you fully. Right. But I do think that is a challenge that I've seen within HBCUs and PWIs, because at the PWI, I was able to get that fostering from Black people that were also in that unique space. Be you, be unique. Right. It doesn't matter, but be you. And I had to learn to do that in a white space. Right. Which was completely different too. Yeah. But also doing that in a Black space is also completely different as well.
It's also completely different.
Yes. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges, is helping our students develop and evolve to the full potential of the uniqueness of who they are individually. Every student is not going to be the same. Everything that we put in place to help every student is not going to be the same exact resource that is needed. It might be a little too much, or it might be too less, but we've got to learn how to uniquely evolve to each individual, since this is our space and the job that we took up. So I think that is one of the challenges we've got to figure out how to answer and how to prepare them for.
Yeah. Because one of the things when I was, again, with FSU and Florida A&M, the whole idea is there was more pressure on the FSU Black students to be uniquely them. Right. Because the cosmology there is not them. Right. From a majority. They're living still in a white Southern world. Right. And you're matriculating in this Southern white world, and the challenge is maintaining who you are, as opposed to when I was at Florida A&M, there was a lot of, okay, let's teach this from the inside out. That we got a lot of Black psychology, African psychology. We got a lot of that, at the HBCUs. So, it wasn't this whole thing about be different in this world, from as a real experience on campus. They taught us more of there is a world outside of this college campus that you must maintain your uniqueness to. FSU students, my baby brother went to FSU, and it was even on this campus. This campus is a microcosm of the world that you got to be unique in. Right. And so, so it's the same lesson, but I think at times it's a different level of intensity that at Stillman College, it would not be the you don't have to talk about, microaggressions and all that on the campus as you would at a UA.
Right.
And then, but there is a world. There is a world that you got to deal with when you leave here that you need to be very fully aware of, as opposed to the student that is on UA's campus and trying to find their way as a black individual in a white world and having to actualize that right now. Like, you got to be who you are, and you a chocolate brother. You ain't you're not one of the mulattoes. Right? You a chocolate brother, so you got to be exactly who you're going to be, in that space. And I always wanted to have that conversation and to have students articulate that conversation, because just because you're a black person that went to a white school, you're not better than the person at HBCU, but neither because you are more black or more authentically African because you went to an HBCU, are you better than the one that went to the white school? Yeah.
So one of the things I had to learn and unpack after I graduated was that I was a part of this imaginary, some people would say it's imaginary, 1%. I, at the time, had a low fade, and my first name is Gregory, but I don't like to tell people my first name is Gregory. I go by my first middle name, Xavier. So, yes, I have 4 names. It is what it is.
Okay, gotcha.
So, I go by Xavier, but I had to decide who I was going to be because of code switching. When I walk in the room at the white institutions, am I going to be Gregory or am I Xavier? I want to be Xavier because that's who I am at home. So when I walk in and I introduce myself as Xavier, I do have to also say Xavier without an R. Because I always get Xavier or Xavier. And even if once I say Xavier without an R, it's 2 or 3 more times I have to introduce myself to the same individual. And then they still call me Xavier, and I just have to roll on with it and just be okay. Cool. We can get past that. But I had a low fade at the time, always clean cut, always, dressed like, as my mama would say, like somebody loved me. So always, clean cut, got it together, always had it on a belt, shirt always tucked in, bow tie, whatever. That's always been me. But it wasn't until I graduated that I understood what they meant by the 1%. Because now it's a point for me to grow my hair out. I thought I was going to do the whole lock journey. Definitely not going to be a thing, but I don't know. But I now have 2-strand twists. Hair is growing out. I make it a point for me to grow my hair out, because the higher that I climb in my career, wherever God takes it, I want there to always be an image of a chocolate brother having hair in places of leadership. Because we don't get to see that often, especially when it comes to corporations. Higher educational systems and institutions of higher learnings are also corporations.
True.
But we don't always look at it that it's still a corporation. We always think higher education. So there was a whole discussion my dad and I had at one point where I was already working at the job at the University of Alabama, and I applied for the full-time role because it was a temp role. And I didn't get the job, but I continued to work in the role. And he was like, well, you didn't get it because your hair is blue. No, that's not why I didn't get it. Because at the time, the executive director was saying, Xavier, we want someone who looks multicultural, who can speak to these things. I said, so sure, I changed my hair color. She said, no, because this is what the university is looking for. This is what the culture of the world is also moving to. So I decided to stand in that 1% space after I had come back and grow my hair out and had colored my hair. It's blue now, and I'm working at this corporation. Now my hair is blue, and I'm applying for jobs in corporations with blue hair and long hair. But we know that a lot of the conversation at the time, which I know we don't have time to get into, the conversation at the time in the world was how institutions were not set up for the representation of people of minority cultures with their hair. There were black young men who were not able to graduate from high schools because of their hair or the type of shoe when they got to graduation. And my younger brother, who was 10 years and 2 days younger than me, had locks at the time, and his tips were red. So I wanted to be his representation that when you go somewhere, regardless of what you look like, you can still be up there. You can still do what you want to do or what you're created to do and not have to, you're still going to go through the affliction.
Sure.
They're still going to.
It's part of it.
It's part of it. But another thing for my people, like my immediate people, my family, we look very young.
Yeah.
So on a daily basis, if my brother and I are standing next to each other because he's taller and he's bigger because he plays football, people think that he's older and I'm the younger brother.
Yeah.
People on a daily basis think that I am a student at Stillman.
I mean, because you got that baby face.
Because I have a baby face and I can't grow facial hair. So everyone thinks that I'm a student or I'm 20 plus.
No, listen, he think he's 20 plus.
Right. So anyway, so those things, that's another caveat to, having to grow up and also understand what is at play when you go to these different institutions as well.
Wow. Listen, y'all, we've got, I got to get Dr. Jackson. I got to get him back here. It's going to be marvelous. I know it. Listen, this is the Coach Call with Elspeth Smith right here on Praise 93.3. We've got more to cover. Don't miss it.
This is a world premiere.
What an amazing day we have had on the Culture Call today. But listen, our time is up. But I am glad and grateful for Dean Xavier Jackson from Stillman College coming to drop some information on the HBCU significance, relevance, and resources. Let's do all that we can do to make sure that our HBCU in this city, in Tuscaloosa, thrives. And if you're listening to me from all around the country, find an HBCU, figure out what their mission is, and connect yourself. Send your students there, send your children there. That will be definitely vital. Listen, it's time for me to go. But listen, know that I love you like my grandmama and my mama would always say at the end of every phone call. I love you a bushel, I love you a peck, and I love you a hug around the neck. This is the Culture Call with yours truly, L. Spencer Smith, right here on the greatest radio station, Praise 93.3. Y'all be good, treat each other right, make an impact in the world. Peace.